Wrestle Plug 444 Live.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to hashtag get plugged in. The refreshing, empowering moment that we have all wanted from WWE.
It's like ordering a medium pizza and then turning up with an extra large and a bottle of Coke.
What happens is these fucking people live in this fantasy land.
Everyone got their shit in, everyone got each other over, everyone looked good, and made the industry look great.
New Japan wrestling talent.
I'm a true champion.
Super Cow! Mamma mia!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the Wrestle Plug podcast. I am, of course, your host, Aaron Nix. I am here to discuss AEW's pay-per-view spectacular, Double or Nothing. But I'm not alone. I've brought along the other famous cleaner from Canada and the man who will put the D in diabetes, Carl Wilkinson.
Oh, yeah, fuck diabetes. That actually works brilliantly. Fuck diabetes.
That shit is horrible. Fuck that shit.
Oh, sorry, I thought we were over the diabetes thing. I thought we were going to talk about the kooky and wonderful one-year anniversary, I guess, of All Elite Wrestling, because I guess today was their birthday.
Yeah, technically it was. So AEW Double or Nothing, ladies and gentlemen. Whopper pay-per-view in store for us. It has just gone down. So, of course, it's time for us to give you our candid and honest opinions as always. I hope you all enjoyed it. Pre-show, Best Friends went over Private Party, securing a number one contendership for the AEW World Tag Team Championships, which are of course held by Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. Briefly, sir, happy that Best Friends are going in there next?
I guess. They've definitely got a lot of TV time lately. They've been on a roll. I'd love to see Private Party get more of an opportunity. They're so much fun. And they're just not utilized enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Best Friends winning just because Private Party haven't been on the product enough. A little bit surprising that the winner of this would get that win. Private Party seem to have amassed quite a lot of their wins on AEW Dark from what I can see, but I'm sure they'll get their opportunity down the line. I think Best Friends have actually put in an astonishing amount of work to this point to get to where they are, so they kind of deserve it, and they've kind of been like, especially Trent, one of the unsung heroes of this run in the, crowdless era of wrestling, so to speak, so I don't have a problem with it. Starting off AEW Double or Nothing, red hot, proper, is the Casino ladder match. Jesus Christ, car crash city. Now, Luchasaurus, Frankie Kazarian, Kip Sabian, Scorpio Sky, Joey Janela, Orange Cassidy, Colt Cabana, Darby Allin, and the debuting Brian Cage, who of course goes on to win this match and will have a future opportunity at the AEW World Championship. Brilliant. Fucking brilliant, this match. The spots that stood out were incredible. There was some... It's always nice to kind of mention a few of the spots. Darby Allin flying off the ladder and almost decapitating his own knees with the skateboard as well in hand. Brian Cage's F5 on Darby Allin, by the way. Jesus Christ almighty. I really enjoyed Joey Janela come springing down to the ring, running like a Welshman, as Stewie would say on Family Guy. Just very, very amusing to me. Just a great, proper lunatic hardcore match. However, there are a couple of things I'd like to take to task on it, which I'll mention, but I thought I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Mr. Wilkinson here what he thought of the Casino ladder match as an opener.
I mean, excuse me, it was definitely an extremely hot opener. Definitely got the crowd, at home, I guess. We all got pretty excited for it. I'm so happy for Brian Cage that he gets this national stage to do what he does, because I've watched him in Impact for years. He's been to a good chunk of Destiny shows, so I've been up close with him, and he's just such a nice guy. It's such a big powerhouse, and it's about damn time that he gets this incredible exposure from what is essentially the second biggest wrestling company in North America, honestly, or at least in the States, I guess, if you want to get particular. Yeah, some of the spots were a little, I don't want to call them cringy, but they're doing some ridiculous things with like no fans in attendance. You know, Phoenix did that, and he was out of this match with an injury. This would have been a brilliant place for him to showcase his incredible luchadoring and being the best luchador in the present right now. But it was still good. It was still good fun. And yeah, hell of a way to start off the show.
Yeah, I wanted to take Orange Cassidy to task in this match, and I know people are going to be like, oh, fuck's sake, you're turning into Cornette. I don't mind Orange Cassidy's stick. I find him relatively amusing. What I don't find amusing is when he's in such... This match is important. The winner of this match will face the AEW World Champion. Okay? And the AEW World Championship, we saw how serious that was presented later on in the night. This match gives you an opportunity in, you know, kayfabe standpoint, to be the best wrestler in the world, at least in terms of AEW. So, you know, when Orange Cassidy comes out and he can't be asked to put up the ladder properly and he's, oh, I'm standing on the ladder and that, it just makes an entire mockery of the match. And it makes it really cringeworthy. It makes me sit there and think, what's the point? You know, don't put him in matches that mean something all the time. You had him wrestle Pac. Now you had him wrestle fucking in this match for the number one contendership. You know, he had some dumb spots with Penelope Ford involved as well. You just thought, Penelope Ford doesn't need to be out there. Kip Sabian's doing just fine by himself. You know, there are little things about it that I didn't like. I thought the match itself was brilliant. Great spot fest, as you'd expect from a ladder match. Loved it, thought it was highly entertaining. Just disappointed with the clusterfucky thing. You know, best friends were involved in it. You know, Luchasaurus was ready in the match. Then Marco Stunt comes down and they do this pathetic step ladder choke slam on Orange Cassidy. It's just not needed. It's great enough. And it just felt like a way of getting other people involved who, frankly, don't deserve to be involved, nor need to be involved. I mean, Best Friends had just come off of the buy-in and a great match with Private Party, a very good high-flying affair. They don't need to be in this match. I know they're trying to stick up for Orange Cassidy, but it just annoys the crap out of me. And I think that Orange Cassidy's gimmick is really fun, and I really enjoy it. And when he's put against the right opponents, like, you've got people like Sonny Kiss constantly in the audience, right? Why can't Sonny Kiss have a great match with Orange Cassidy on the buy-in, or as a good opener or something like that? Use them the right way. You've got talents there who are there not only as great athletes, but also there to entertain. You know, make use of that. You know, Jimmy Havoc was getting involved in this match as well. Love the suit, by the way, with the blood on it. I know some people had some unsavory things to say about that on Twitter, and I also saw a few people saying that it was in poor taste because of what had obviously happened with Ana Kimura. Personally, I think that's a little bit over the top. That's just Jimmy Havoc's MO, and he's been wearing stuff like that for many, many, many years. So people need to really get a proper gauge on the history of him as a wrestler before they start making ridiculous accusations like that. But I liked the match, thought it was great, really popped my fucking nuts off, as everybody will attest to, for Brian Cage in his debut. Him having Taz as a manager is great. Really feels like managers are starting to come back into the forefront of wrestling with what Zelina Vega's doing. You've got so many people over in NWA getting involved, obviously MVP as well, getting associated with Bobby Lashley now. It really feels like, you know, Jake Roberts, of course, as well. Brandy Rhodes doing some good management stuff with the Nightmare Collective. Just feels like managers are important again. Obviously, that's not even including the fact that, you know, Paul Heyman isn't around that much. What with Brock Lesnar sort of on his, you know, yearly hiatus. So it's so good to see so many great management elements coming back into wrestling, and Taz will do very well alongside Brian Cage, because Brian Cage is a good talker, but he's not a strong talker. And anyone who saw his run in Impact, particularly when he was champion, will know that that's not really his forte. His forte is all about being this, you know, big fucking unbreakable machine, basically. And I think he is the perfect next man up to face Jon Moxley. And like you say, it's thrilling to know that he will be on a national stage fighting for a national title. This will be the biggest moment of Brian Cage's career so far, and it's well deserved. MJF versus Jungle Boy was a match that, I have to be honest, in retrospect, I didn't really look back on and think, oh, you know, this could be an absolute classic. I didn't really have much interest in it. And it proved me wrong. I think a lot of that is down to Jurassic Express. They don't click with me. I really enjoyed them at first, and I felt like they were a really big collection of stars. And I think Jurassic Express have so much value in terms of what they could be. Like, you know, how does this strike you? A Jurassic Express cartoon. You know, they could easily have crossovers with them and Scooby-Doo and stuff like that. It'd be great fun, but I don't think they market them right. And also, you know, Marco Stunt being far too involved from a wrestling standpoint is quite frustrating as well. But that being said, Jungle Boy is an excellent worker. And his match with MJF once again, do you know what? At first, it felt like it was about trying to get MJF over. Now it feels like MJF is getting other people over. He had the best match I've seen Marco Stunt have by a country mile on AEW Dynamite, and he follows it up with this. This was excellent, hard-hitting, some crazy spots in this match. You know, the Poison Rana on the apron. There was a lot going on in this match, a lot of content, and they told a good story with it as well. My only critique, once again, I felt the Jungle Boy was very poor at selling the arm at times. We were obviously working towards, you know, MJF's finisher, that kind of cross arm breaker, and I just felt like he could have done a little bit more. You know, there was a little spot in the match, I think quite later on, where Jungle Boy was clearly favouring his arm, really struggling with it, and then immediately goes for a deadlift German suplex. And you think, that makes you look like a fucking moron. And then, you know, you mentioned during the broadcast that faces have a hard enough time in this industry because they really are presented as stupid a lot of the time, where they're not allowed to do anything nefarious because then the crowd might think less of them. Yeah, that personally annoyed me. But other than that, I actually thought this was really phenomenal. And I scoffed a little bit when JR said on Dynamite this week, oh, this is the match that could absolutely steal the show. It didn't steal the show, but it was certainly a contender for one of the better matches of the night. And I appreciated the effort.
It's incredible. Like, I think Tony mentioned this on the broadcast. Yeah, I'm just calling him Tony because we're on a first name basis. God, wouldn't that be great? But MJF's only been wrestling professionally for 5 years and Jungle Boy for 4. Like, these two guys have 9 years between them. I know MJF, I think, is 24, and Jungle Boy's probably around the same age, I would assume. Like, these guys put on. I really enjoyed the match. I know MJF, he's always been a brilliant mic worker, but I think he's really coming into his own as an in-ring performer as well. Jungle Boy is also, I think, a relatively good performer. Like, he's definitely got some, you know, fun moveset. You know, the Poison Rana that you mentioned already, which was so gnarly, but so good. These guys only have an upside. They're only going to get better. I firmly believe that MJF is the future of maybe not just AEW, but like wrestling as a whole. I think he's going to be an absolutely huge name in the years to come, and Jungle Boy is not going to be too far behind. Maybe not, you know, main event level, but he'll always have a place in a company, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Early doors for this match. I was a little surprised. The tournament final to crown the inaugural AEW TNT champion. Cody versus Lance Archer with their respective cornermen, of course, Arn Anderson and Jake Roberts, and Mike Tyson once again coming back after all those years. We know that Mike Tyson is making a comeback in boxing. If you're even a remote fan of that, I'm not sure what to think of that, because I was a huge fan of his athletic appearance and his boxing style back in the day. So, but from a celebrity standpoint, he is a huge name and very, very smart, to be honest. You know, people lambast WWE for bringing the celebrities, but come on, you know, this guy has got an incredible amount of stock, an incredible amount of reputation. And I felt that he didn't offer too much extra to the match other than the odd yawn and some really actually quite enthusiastic facial expressions. But this match, for me, was the best of the wrestling matches, if that makes sense, for my money. I felt that these guys told a better story than anyone else on the card. They told a sports entertainment-based story with professional wrestling DNA. And that is what is so special about Cody. And it shows how ignorant and stupid people on the internet are. I've seen people tweeting constantly going, this proves why Cody, he couldn't cut it in WWE, so he went to AEW and he can't even cut it as a big guy in AEW. It's like, you literally could not be more of a pathetic, sweaty mark if you think that. It's ridiculous. Honestly, nobody has done more to try and boost this industry to boost the credibility of what professional wrestling is than Cody. And he has been having match of the year contenders out the wazoo. It's insane. And here he is once again, him and Lance Archer. And Lance Archer, by the way, let's talk about a guy who we're talking 13 years ago was in TNA as Lance Hoyt and was kind of considered a bit of a joke. And I liked him. I thought he was relatively entertaining and stuff for Christy Hemme, notwithstanding. And, you know, he was a decent guy. But you didn't think much of him. You just thought, it's just some big lump. And, he's a guitar hero. And TNA, of course, in that time just had no clue how to book gimmicks. He is now, for me, one of the preeminent talents, especially in horse wrestling. The gimmick, the image, the presentation, the facial expressions, the moveset as well. Talk about a guy who has gone to Japan and built himself a true legacy. You can turn your nose up at the Japanese experience, but it is what really makes or breaks a lot of great guys. And you think about how many guys have gone to Japan, come out of that system, and all of a sudden are tenfold the wrestlers they ever were. AJ Styles has always been a world-class wrestler. But when he went to Japan, he cemented what he was. And he cemented it with toughness. And that's what Japan does. It toughens you up. And we're going to talk about that in a minute when it comes to women's wrestling as well. I love this match. And as I've said to you before, and I'm going to say it again on this podcast, nobody is having a higher caliber or a better caliber match than Cody. He consistently has the best matches, the best storytelling matches with the best psychology on every AEW pay-per-view. Every single one. You think back, MJF, phenomenal match. Absolutely incredible. Sean Spears, actually probably the last time we really felt that Sean Spears was truly relevant. He had an incredible pay-per-view match with Darby Allin, truly a spectacular forgotten classic, absolutely brilliant at one of the smaller pay-per-views. His match with his brother Dustin is a masterpiece, absolutely phenomenal. His match with Chris Jericho, again, psychology-wise, a masterpiece. The match with Nick Aldis at All In, absolutely astonishing. He is a storytelling master. He goes out there and he makes you feel. And he wrestles so well, and he looks like a world-class talent. He feels like this generation's Sting, which is ironic because I know it's his favorite wrestler, but I really believe that. He feels like he has the same work ethic, the same kind of face value. Sting, what was amazing about Sting, what made Sting, for me, the greatest babyface of all time, was his ability to tell a story and his ability to hold an audience in the palm of his hand, but never look stupid as the good guy. Obviously, through booking, there were moments where you thought, oh dear. But overall, when you look at Sting's astonishing career, he never felt like a stupid babyface, like, oh, it's a trap. Like, he was just so savvy, so cool, so humble, so honest, and so wholesome at times, especially as Surfer Sting. And Cody seems to have channeled that beautifully in his career. I thought this match was awesome. I love the spots. I love the hard-hitting nature of it. I think that Arn and Jake Roberts added to it, which was nice. It was nice that Jake Roberts didn't get involved physically, because I just think at his age, it's just not necessary. And the same goes for Arn as well. I'm sure Arn is itching to deliver another spine buster, but it's just not needed, lads. Just not needed. And the sweaty marks are going to be like, oh, look at Mike Tyson yawning. You know why he's yawning? Because AEW shit. No, he's probably yawning because the poor fucker's knackered. And he yawned once, and actually, if you go look on social media, instead of burying your heads in the sand and, like always, trying to find something to shit on because you're just overall not very happy, which begs the question, why are you watching this fucking thing in the first place if you're not enjoying it, or you think it's laughable? Like, why? Like, at the end of the day, you must have paid money to watch it. Who's the idiot here? You are, not them. There was loads of footage that completely counteracted that, where, he was getting involved in these facial expressions when Lance Archer just burst past him and decks that poor fucking jobber at the beginning of the match. Fucking gold. That alone was an utterly amazing. It was like, holy shit. Like, it's just brilliant. Loved it. The match was phenomenal. And of course, Cody is our first ever TNT champion. And I kind of felt like that might have been the case when I gave our predictions on the last day of Wrestling Address. And it's pretty much come to fruition. But I think that this is a wonderful moment for Cody, and I think this is very deserving of it. It was very evident that he's not ever, or at least not for the foreseeable future, in a foreseeable year, is going to have a chance to be AEW World Champion. But what holding that belt means to him is not necessarily, hey, I'm the mid-card guy, hey, I've got our version of the IC title. To him, That means that he represents TNT, the company that put faith in him and his friends in creating this brand. And I think when it's all said and done, it's a masterpiece in storytelling. And there are no two men in this company more fitting for that moment than Lance Archer and Cody.
Yeah, for me, I said it while we were watching it. I think Cody is the single best storyteller in all of wrestling right now. I know you pretty much said it already, but I feel like it needs to be said again. He just tells these incredible stories. Like all of his matches, you feel like I get emotionally invested in all of Cody's matches because he just makes you feel like, even if it's just, a singles match with Darby Allin, that their time limit draw was brilliant. Even the match with Shawn Spears, with the dummy chair or the accidental hard way busted open bullshit, whatever, didn't really matter. Cody made you care. And that's, to me, his biggest strength. He is a phenomenal worker. He's good on the mic, but he makes you care about his matches. And that's something not a lot of people can do for me personally. Maybe it's because I'm just growing cranky and, just annoyed at life in my old age. But Cody Rhodes is a special performer. And yeah, he's never going to challenge for the AEW title. I'm not like the fact that they're playing this, like they're keeping the continuity is something I really appreciate. And I think the TNT Championship is essentially his reward for, putting all those other people over that he's already done. Even in victory, he still puts the other guy over. And Cody finally has something to prove that he is, without a shadow of doubt, one of the most incredible people and workers in all of wrestling right now.
Yeah. I'll tell you what wasn't over with me, and that's Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford. I'm not really going to talk about it much. I thought it was boring. It was short as well. I think Penelope Ford actually has a lot more to offer the women's division and AEW as a whole. It was fine. It wasn't a bad match by any means, and it had some good physicality about it, but it also suffered from the fact that Penelope Ford was a last-minute stand-in for the injured Britt Baker as well. So, for me, just didn't sit well with me. Absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with it. Bang average, though. Bang average. Simply there to take the edge off of what was a phenomenal piece of storytelling by Cody. And I hate to be that guy, but I just don't think Chris Statlander's gimmick works at all. I think she is really underrated, really powerful, great worker. She's got a lot going for her, but the gimmick is not one of them. And it makes her a little bit stupid, if you ask me. It makes her look a bit stupid as well. I know it's all cutesy and it's fun and she bops people on the nose and I don't have anything against her, but it just doesn't work for me. And this match was evident of that. She worked a good match and Penelope Ford sold her ass off. Probably a lot better than people think because she's so beautiful. People think, she's just a pretty girl. She's the Lana of the division, I've seen it, which is just utter nonsense. Like, for anyone who's seen Lana wrestle, come on, man. There's no comparison. But yeah, just didn't strike with me in this match. It didn't feel right and it felt out of place. You know what it felt like? It felt like a Dynamite mid-show match, kind of, just thrown in there for the sake of it. Didn't feel like it was pay-per-view quality. If anything, they should have made the buy-in an hour and put this on there.
Yeah, like you say, it was pretty much bang average. It was okay. Statlander gets the win, fine, whatever. Being an alien in 2020, just the kids will get excited for it. But I don't think AEW is aiming for the child demographic. They're aiming for, the people our age, the people that have been, watching WWE for years and just getting upset with how bad they've been. And just having a lady that walks up and boops. I'm sorry. It just, she's fun to watch. I think her finisher is really, really cool. The Big Bang Theory, I believe they call it. But it's not clicking with me. I'm with you, man. The match was fine, but it was just just kind of there, just kind of taking up some time.
Yeah, it's just sitting there in the middle of the card, and like you say, they don't really have much of a young demographic. Not a young demographic. You know, they might have sort of, you know, younger adults, but they don't have kids really who watch it. You know, and so what they're doing is they're saying, oh look, you know, here's a great gimmick for young people in Jurassic Express. Here's a great gimmick for young people in this alien lady, Chris Statlander. But what's the biggest problem there? Like you say, there are no fucking kids watching this. And the few kids who are watching it probably find Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy far cooler than they do these gimmicks. You know, they don't market these gimmicks appropriately. If Jurassic Express is meant to be more fun and more, you know, like Luchasaurus, for instance, what an astonishing character. What wrestling kid, what wrestling fan whose kid wouldn't want to, like, sit on his shoulders or, you know, meet him, this larger-than-life dinosaur/man? It would just be amazing. But they don't market it that way, so nobody gives a fucking shit. Nor should anyone give a shit about Dustin Rhodes versus Shawn Spears, I'm sorry to say. I love both these guys. I think Dustin Rhodes is in this amazing little renaissance resurgence period. Really cool to see. And I think that Shawn Spears still has a lot to offer wrestling as a whole. But I don't think Shawn Spears has just... at this point, I've given up with hoping AEW might give Shawn Spears a platform to achieve something. You know, the TNT Championship tournament, although it ended up being fantastic in so many ways, I think... it was, you know, I was hoping this was going to be a tournament that would set a bar and set a standard for mid-carders to get involved in. And instead you've kind of got, it's kind of like, hey, Cody is a main eventer, but he can't go for the main event belt, so let's give him the other belt. And that's great. It makes the belt feel very prestigious, which is always nice, particularly for your first champion. But I look at guys like Shawn Spears, Darby Allin, and I just think, how long until people lose interest completely in these guys? Now, Darby Allin has a lot more going for him than Shawn Spears in so many ways, the look, the video promos and stuff, but Shawn Spears has so much to add to this match, to this company, excuse me. And what does he get for his efforts? He has his pants pulled down, and JR makes a couple of terrible fucking shitty jokes about the anus and prison, you know? Trash. Absolute trash. Aside from Brandy Rhodes looking spectacular as always, I didn't enjoy this. I thought it was pointless. I thought it was a bad use of both guys. It doesn't make me want to take more interest in either of them. It was just very, very piss poor. And also, it was given, 3 days build? Nah, no thank you. Don't want to see matches like this. And the fact that it was only 3.5 minutes long was probably its only saving performance. I don't care. I really don't. And to be honest, I've kind of given up hope that they'll do something useful with Shawn Spears at this point. He's clearly just a guy with great experience they've brought on board to try and help other people out. They obviously don't have any interest in making him any kind of prominent star in their company.
And that's a crying shame, because I really like Shawn Spears. I think he has so much to offer. And yet, you're right, he's just kind of another guy that's there. And it's upsetting, man. Like, I think he's definitely underrated as a worker. I think people just go, oh, he had that stupid 10 gimmick. That means he's crap. Do people not remember how over that gimmick actually was in NXT? Like, people were losing their fucking shit every week. And now, I was hoping when he came to AEW, he would have a bit of a, I don't want to call it like a renaissance, maybe a resurgence, I think would be a better word. And he's just kind of there. Is it cool to see Dustin Rhodes still kicking ass? Yeah, absolutely. Goldust or the Natural or all that, whatever you want to call him. I have a lot of fond memories of Dustin Rhodes. But just seeing him beat Dustin in like 2 minutes, beat Shawn Spears in 2 minutes, it's not really something I needed to see.
No. My final point on this is his shit booking. You know, and they keep giving up on Shawn Spears before they give him a chance to get started. So he has that rivalry with Cody Rhodes, the chair. They have one match, boom, that's it. done. Okay, great. Okay, what's he going to do now? He had a fleeting rivalry with Joey Janela. He was slagging off GCW, which was, of course, Janela's creation, which is a kind of offset of CZW in the sense of it kind of was born out of the fire of that and, you know, ended up being much better. And GCW is fantastic. Game Changer Wrestling. People should check it out. They're really cool. And, you know, he had a little bit of a fleeting moment where he was taking a piss out of that, had a really cool parody t-shirt, and then that was gone as well, even though they had a decent match. You know, he had this wonderful idea of, you know, using social media to find a tag team partner. That seems to have fucking disappeared pretty quick. They've given up on that as well, which is a shame because that was garnering hundreds of thousands of, you know, responses on social media constantly, wrestlers sending in videos and stuff. It was great fun. And then, can't be bothered. That seems to have disappeared. Here he is now again. You know, he loses to Cody in the first round of the TNT Championship tournament. You think, okay, fair enough. I understand that. It was a good match. Then all of a sudden he's like, right, I want my revenge. I'm so sick of this. He's using this angle of, you know, I still hate you, Cody. Cody and Sean Spears has never gone away. But they are like, oh yeah, well, Cody's doing this, and this. Sean, do you mind going out there and dropping your cacks for 3 minutes? What? What's the point? What's the point? This is what will hurt your company, not giving your mid-carders enough time to flourish and giving them proper, decent rivalries to work with. There's no reason why the mid-card can't have great rivalries too, not just the main event. That's what made the Attitude Era so special, excuse me. Not the fact that it had an army, a multitude of incredible, you know, wrestling matches, because it didn't, actually. The quality of wrestling wasn't incredible all the time. It was certainly good in some points and not great in others. But what it did have was meaningful, emotionally attached storylines throughout. You know, everything from the undercard, you know, things like, for instance, you know, their idea of a mid-card angle in Attitude Era WWF was Chyna and Eddie Guerrero as an item. And it was just wonderful to watch. Very much the prelude to Mandy Rose and Otis. Things like that get people over. Things like that get people interested and intrigued in your mid-card. What won't get them interested and intrigued is seeing one of your best workers have his pants pulled down by an old guy. And then JR making, frankly, a stupid fucking joke about prison rape. Fantastic. Fuck off, mate. Really annoyed me that did. Really pissed me off. I know JR is a legend. I respect his stuff. But I thought he was trash on this pay-per-view. And I know that's going to upset a lot of people because you're not allowed to fucking speak ill of legends. But I just think his time has come and gone, and I love the fact that he works for AEW. I love the fact he's there to put input for people, but we'll talk about that at the end of the show, I think, because I want to crack on with some of these matches. So, obviously, a match I know that you are itching to talk about is the crowning of a brand new AEW Women's Champion, as your girl, Hikaru Shida, toppled the beast Nyla Rose to become the brand new women's champion. Go on, mate. Floor is yours. I know you're in love with Hikaru Shida. Everybody who listens to this podcast probably knows it by now. Spill your guts. Let us know how happy and emotional you are about this, frankly, wonderful moment, obviously, as we unfortunately have to, you know, take this in with knowing that the passing of someone who was a very good friend of hers in Hana Kimura from yesterday.
Yeah, I'll mention that real quick before I start just popping my fucking tits off. Guys, I know we say a bunch of shit on this podcast. We take the shit with each other. We
diabetes.
Say some, exactly. Like we say some pretty questionable things sometimes. Yeah, inflammatory is a good word, but it's all in good fun. Like we're all really good friends with each other. Like we say it for fun. Exactly.
We're in on the joke. It's not like I just hit Kyle with a blindside. I don't sort of like, you know, just randomly go, hey, Kyle, you've got diabetes. Ha, 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 ha. By the way, Alex Delanzo comes on this podcast. He has Asperger's. He's very proud of the fact that he has Asperger's, and he calls himself the king of Asperger's style. I would never call him that just off a cuff. So maybe get some fucking context or ask some polite questions before you fucking make judgments on what we say to each other. We make sure what our boundaries are before we kick off with this nonsense.
Exactly. And like, I think anyone who listens to this, or anyone in the world, you've experienced bullying in one way or another. And we tend to forget that while these people that are on our TV, these wrestlers, these larger than life personalities, they are just people. They have feelings, they have fears, they have all this kind of stuff. And if you keep putting someone down, they'll eventually be a 22-year-old girl who had her entire life ahead of her, and she takes her own life. Just be careful with what you fucking say to people, because you never know what they're going through in life. You probably don't know jack shit, to be completely honest. And just, this world is fucked up enough as it is, especially with the current global situation. So just be fucking nice to each other, would you? Jesus fucking Christ. Now, on to some good news. Yeah, that's about as deep as I get on an emotional level. So you guys should appreciate that, because I thought that was very good. I don't like to usually speak about my feelings and shit, but this was something that hit pretty close to home for me. So just be nice to each other, would you? Now let's talk about how we have a brand new AEW Women's World Champion in Hikaru Shida. And don't get me wrong, I think Nyla Rose was doing a fantastic job as champion. If she's what Nia Jax wishes she could be, I think we've said that before, but I'm going to say it again because it is 100% true. I think her reign was very good. She has some dominating victories, but the time just seemed right for Hikaru Shida. They've been building her up. She's been getting victory after victory. She was a top-ranked woman other than the champion for, I think, 13 straight weeks, I think they said on the broadcast, like in those little bars they have where they give you little information about the wrestler, which I think is always really neat, a little sidebar for that. But she came out, from what you were telling me, she had her friend's colors, I think, on her gear. And she was also...
Yeah, it certainly seemed that way, because as far as I'm aware, the woman that she was cosplaying from Final Fantasy, which you were so kind to obviously impart that knowledge on me, I'm not entirely aware that she wears those colours normally. I'm pretty sure she wears white with black, so... She does. Yeah, but yeah, it may or may not have been a tribute. I'm sure if it was worn with that in mind, then it obviously is a beautiful tribute. But obviously I can't confirm that, so I don't want to be out here like some snotty smart going, oh yes, the reason she's wearing that is because of her fall. Like, I'm just not into that sort of thing. So, but it certainly was colours that were associated with her more darker side of her gimmick. So, you know, hopefully... Well, it doesn't really matter. I'm sure that what's most important is that Hana's spirit was in her soul, in her performance, and I'm sure that was the case.
Absolutely, man, because, she won. The end of the match, I thought, was just, man, when she wound up that kendo stick, it just, like, right in the head, just knocked Nyla flat on her ass, and then a few of those running knees for the win. But the match itself, it built up to that crescendo. The fact that there was a bit of a storytelling element with Nyla going, hey, I found your kendo stick. And then she smashed her in the face with it on Dynamite a few weeks back and just been carrying it around ever since. Came out with it for her entrance tonight. And then, you know, Hikaru gets it back, and that's kind of the catalyst to her win. I think the AEW Women's Division is still its weakest point. It's kind of like on Dynamite, it's maybe one women's match a show, maybe two, if you're lucky. But it's always kind of been, I saw this online, I don't remember who said it, but I'm going to take it here. It's always kind of seemed like a two-woman division where it's always just the champion and challenger. I'm very happy that we have a new champion. I just kind of hope that they could use this to, we say this every time, but to build up new challengers, you know. I don't think I've seen Penelope Ford get a win. You know, build her up, build up so many of these other women that you do have, because they're going to get a good match with Hikaru Shida one way or another. So don't always use like old reliable. Get someone new. That's my biggest takeaway from this. Other than Shida being a champion, of course, which is just fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I jest when I said boo. I really like Nyla Rose, and her putting Hikaru Shida through that table, that blackjack table, saying always bet on black. Oh, I love that. That's just her in a nutshell. She's fucking cool. By the way, if you have a problem with me referring to Nyla Rose by her identified gender, and a she, then frankly, stop listening to this podcast because you're a fucking twat. So, moving on. That's all I have to say about that. Yeah, loved this match. Thought this was great. I thought actually this was one of the best matches of the night. And also gave cadence to why women should have far more time and far more quality of this product. Now, in saying that, of course, we did have another women's match on this card, and frankly, it wasn't very good by comparison. That's not necessarily their fault, a combination of injuries, booking, all these kind of things. But this is how you do women's wrestling and how you do it right. And I'm so glad you mentioned the crescendo because that is such a Japanese thing. Anyone who watches Japanese wrestling will know it's all about building to that crescendo, building that audience anticipation, that noise, and it just gets bigger and bigger over time. And yeah, very, very exciting. The way the match built. My only critique is that Hikaru Shida really should be putting more stank on her fucking strikes. I want to see more of that because, I tell you what, I kind of understand why you fall for the woman because when you see her eyes at the beginning of the match and she's staring a hole through her and she's got a furrowed brow and she looks very expressive. Very expressive. I just loved it. Absolutely loved it. It melted me a little bit seeing that stare. I just thought, that's a woman who really is in that moment, really living that match. There was a beautiful psychology to this match. Very similar in some ways to Cody. This was the women's answer to Cody versus Lance Archer, and this definitely would have been a perfect centerpiece of any wrestling card, let alone a women's wrestling card. I thought it was actually quite phenomenal, and I think it might have just tipped the scale for me as the best women's match I think I've ever seen in AEW. And I was very blessed to have been there for the debut Dynamite show, and I still hold that match in very high regard when Riho knocked off Nyla Rose to become the first women's champion. But I think this topped it. I really do. I think it had the right amount of physicality, the right amount of violence, and the right amount of wrestling too. It didn't just get too carny and over the top. So, congratulations, Hikaru Shida. If anyone was going to knock off Nyla Rose to win that belt, it was going to be her, and it should have been her. And that's why I'm not overly fussed or overly upset that Nyla Rose has been dethroned as champion. I think Hikaru Shida makes a beautiful champion of any division, but more so this. And what a fitting tribute to one of her fallen and wonderful sisters in Hana. She would have been incredibly proud of this moment. I have no doubt about that. And as a little aside note, just so people know, I will be recording a separate podcast solely to discuss Hana Kimura's unfortunate passing and also her wonderful legacy as a wrestler that she left behind with her and the friends that she made along the way. So there will be a small tribute coming to her because I felt that it was very necessary that she also had her say. Because unfortunately for us, some people might have noticed we didn't mention it on our Stay Wrestling address, even though it was dropped the day of the announcements. It's actually because it was recorded Thursday night, so we were unaware of this situation, which is why it is predominantly about Owen Hart and Shad Gaspard, but we will ensure that Hana has her moment in the spotlight as well, because frankly she owned that spotlight whenever she was a part of it. So yeah, congratulations to the wonderful Ms. Shida. She is your new AEW Women's Champion. Now on the flip side of things, the men have their own heavyweight title. And I've got to be honest, I've been quite critical of Jon Moxley's run as champion. His mic work has been fine. His cadence, his psychology has been fine. But the matches for me just haven't clicked. They just haven't clicked. Something's been missing. So I thought Brody Lee would certainly add something more to this rivalry, despite the fact he's part of the Dork Order, which, by the way, is still fucking terrible. What did you think about this match, mate?
I mean, I liked it, but it definitely wasn't anything special. And that kind of hurts to say, but it just...
That's a Moxley match in a nutshell for me, right?
Exactly. It was just kind of there. I mean, I know that these two had some matches in CZW. I have never watched that ever, so I'm not going to go out of my way and say, yeah, they had some of these amazing matches doing this, blah, blah, blah. I'm just aware of the history. So I assumed it would be a couple of guys who would know what to do. They could push each other a little bit because they kind of know how much shit they can give the other. And it was just another one of those matches that was just kind of there. Like, I wasn't really that emotionally invested in it. I wasn't really that excited for it. It was fine, but you don't want your World Championship matches to just be fine. You want those to be ones that can guarantee to steal the show or just be something. And I like Mox. I definitely like him a lot more than Dean Ambrose. But you're right, man. He's not clicking the way a world champion should be. And that's kind of scary with how fast they rush the title onto him.
Yeah, I still don't agree with John Moxley getting the belt as early as he did. Steve, before he sort of took his break for the podcast, would hammer this point home quite a lot, actually, on the State Wrestling Address when we discussed Dynamite. He didn't like the fact that AEW was very quick to rush into these heavy set, hard man, heavy man, big main event marquee collisions. And this was another one that I was in agreement with him on. I don't think Brody Lee should have had his title shot this early. I think there should have been far more build to it. I understand that there isn't another pay-per-view now until September, which I believe will be All Out. I think they call it All Out again. They should have gone All In, All Out, and then finally called it Shake All About. But don't worry about it. It's fine. It's whatever. It's what I would have wanted. Come on, man. These things are lost on people. Seriously, if anyone's listening who is in the wrestling business, give me a creative job. Seriously, I will add so much more to your product. Oh dear. And I'll call it the Hokey Cokey. God damn it. I get why they've done this, but for me, this match was a match. And it had some very good spots, but as a match and as a full piece, I thought it was a bit boring. And I thought it was a bit too slap happy with the car crash spots as well. I think Moxley has never been that great a worker, in my personal humble opinion. Or at least his style is not conducive to something I enjoy. I quite like meat and potatoes wrestling. What?
You have a different opinion?
You son of a bitch. For me, his style just doesn't sit with me. It doesn't bang. It doesn't slap with me, as the kids are saying. I've fucking no idea what you fucking lot are on about these days, honestly. Can't keep up with these buzzwords, mate. He was yeeting him all over the place. It just didn't sit with me. There was something about this match that made me just think, yeah, that's all right. Yeah, that's all right. Oh, that looks quite cool. Oh, there was a spot where he gave him that kind of pump handle release into the barrier, didn't he? And he was kind of sat at an angle. And then, JR was like, oh, he kind of got a break there because he did it on the outside. And he kind of barely broke it. He just bent the barrier slightly. And that, for me, summed up the match because it had great intent, but the final product was just a bit lackluster and a bit meh. And you can have these big spots going through stages and things like that. That's all very well and good. I'm not entirely sure whether this match was advertised as a street fight or not. I don't want to go on too heavily about the complete lack of authority or rules, just because I'm not entirely sure. It may have gone over my head, in which case I understand. Maybe someone would like to message me and let me know if this was just a straight up singles match or indeed a street fight of some sort, no disqualification. If there's no disqualification, that's fine, whatever. They did loads of shit, but I'm not enjoying John Moxley's title reign. I'm not. I'm just not. I enjoy his promos. I like the fact that he threatened to, pretty much murder us if we didn't give our grandmothers a ring, but I don't think he's really working as the marquee champion. And I think when Chris Jericho passed the torch over to him, so to speak, or at least, let him become champion, so to speak, however you want to put it, I think it left a massive void entertainment-wise. And I think Moxley is not as entertaining as Chris Jericho, which is not an insult by any means. Like, who is as entertaining as the Ayatollah of Rock and Roller? Come on, he's so good, Le Champion. But at the same time, Moxley is much more of a gritty Austin-like character. His name's the guy who turns up and DDT your face in, and yeah, I wear a fucking jacket and I'm fucking cool. And it's like, that's great and it's good, but it needs longevity and it needs substance, and I don't think it's quite there yet. And I think that eventually people might start tuning out from it a little bit. I think he is a fine heavyweight champion, but I don't think he's one of the better ones they'll have. I think there are more interesting people down the line, and I'm hoping that the insertion of Taz and Brian Cage will breathe a little bit of life and interest and intrigue into this, because what it will do is offer him an opportunity to work with somebody who he's never really worked with properly before, whereas he has. Brody Lee, Chris Jericho, these are the rivalries that he's really had since he came in. Even Kenny Omega, sort of, they've been teasing at it a lot. And to be fair, his stuff with Omega was brilliant because they had the right build. Since then, he hasn't done anything great. And a lot of that has been to do with the fact he's been working with guys who he already knows his stuff. And it breaks my heart to say, but this was kind of like a rehash of their match at Extreme Rules a few years ago, for anyone who remembers it. It was fine, but it was a little bit too sports entertaining in places with a little bit more grit. It just didn't hit right with me. Which leads us to our main event of the evening, because that's not a main event. You know why? Because main events finish the show. Don't give me that co-main event crap either. That doesn't matter. That doesn't count. I know you're listening, Nick Payne, okay? And I know you're one of these people who's like, oh, it doesn't matter as long as it's for a major title, it's a main event. No, wrong. If it doesn't close the show, it is not a main event. It is simple as that. Who main evented WrestleMania this year? Well, it sure as hell wasn't the fucking opener, was it? It sure as hell wasn't Seth versus Kevin Owens. Behave yourself. The Stadium Stampede match, the Elite versus the Inner Circle. This was fucking phenomenal. Take it away, Carl.
I mean, it was
wonderful.
It was wonderful. You had the Inner Circle all come out. For some reason, Dasha was doing the announcements for the actual Wrestle, like the in-ring stuff, but they got Justin Roberts for this one somehow, so it was obviously pre-recorded. Doesn't matter. All the pre-recorded matches we've watched, either here or in WWE, have been fucking great. So I don't care how they
do that impression.
I don't know how they get over this. The announce thing. I don't know why people would care. If you do, you're a fucking mark, and I hate you. So, the Inner Circle all come out. They're announced one by one. They're in fucking football jerseys. What was it? Jericho wore the number 27, I believe, and that's the number his father wore when he played in the NHL. Guevara had 93 because that's the year he was born. I'm not sure what the other number significance were for the other lads, but it didn't matter. And also, you pointed this out for me, they came out dressed in the same colors as the Mean Machines in the Longest Yard remake. And I fucking love that movie. So they came out like black and red, and it was just, I loved it. Just brilliant. And then the Elite come out one by one, not wearing football jerseys, and Hangman Adam Page doesn't come out immediately. So right off the hop, the Elite are down a man. There are some kooky spots. They get into the ring rather early, which surprised both of us, but it was still pretty cool. And then eventually Hangman comes out. He's riding a horse. He chases Guevara down through inside the arena until he sees the bar. And then you don't see him again for another 5 minutes. So they're still doing the alcoholic thing, are they? Okay. But the biggest thing here for me, I mean, we have to talk about Matt Hardy because he obviously had a hand in this because, he's done all his final deletions and all that stuff. So he knows what the people want. And we saw, 3 different versions of Matt Hardy tonight? Or is it just 2 and Damascus is a different thing? I don't want to insult Damascus.
V1 and original.
Big money man.
Big money man, indeed.
Yeah. So they apparently Tony Khan has a pool in his VIP area. Can you imagine just having that much money that you just put a pool in your VIP area? Can you just imagine that for a second? But
Imagine
he did
the
it.
ostentatious nature of it, though, that during an NFL game, and there could be like 30, 40,000 people there, and you're just sat in the swimming pool in front of all of them watching the game, like, yeah, and what, mate? Fucking phenomenal.
Just what's up? So Santana and Ortiz get a hold of Matt, and he's in the jacket, so he's Damascus. So they get him and they toss him in the pool, and then they get him in there. They're beating him up a bit. He's under the water. He comes up, and I believe he was V1 because they had some matter of facts on the side. Oh, it was amazing. Do you guys remember the V1 facts? It's like, Matt's favorite cheese is provolone, or Matt doesn't like ham, or those
Windows
stupid little
Media
facts.
Player. Remember they used to use
man.
the original Windows Media Player, which for, the nerd in me just popped me, and brilliantly updated, and a great reference to anyone who loved that era of wrestling as well, from like 2002, 2003, Matt Hardy. It was great. It was really great, and obviously helped by Santana and Ortiz's hysterical selling. Brilliant.
Yeah, I remember Matt Hardy. He was Cruiserweight champion. I remember when he was V1, and so much of SmackDown's time was dedicated to watching him cut weight to make it to the 220 limit, which was the Cruiserweight thing at the time. Oh, so much fun. And then they shove him under the water again, and all of a sudden there's a camera down there, and he's looking right at it, doing the V1 things and just screaming at it. And then he comes back up, and he's Big Money Matt from TNA, because it was TNA at the time. It wasn't Impact. And fucking Matt Hardy is just so wonderful, and I say that with all pun intended. I don't care. He has an incredible mind for the business, and it showed. Oh God, what else happened? Oh, so Hager finds Hangman at the bar, and they don't immediately throw down. Hager just sits next to him. Hangman pours him a drink. He's like, "Are we gonna fight or are we gonna drink?" And just slides a drink over. I know you haven't been a big fan of the Hangman alcoholic thing, and honestly, neither have I. But this was funny. I think Hangman did a really good job in this. I had a lot of fun watching him.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we're not going to do it justice. So guys need to go back and watch it. If you haven't seen it already, make sure you check out this match. There's some fantastic highlights, obviously, running around YouTube. If you're, on Twitter as well, social media in general. But if you're actually listening to this podcast, there's also a YouTube variant of it, and I'll try my best to get as much footage clocked in there as well, without obviously triggering a hysterical amount of copyright warnings. But yeah, we'll try and throw in as many GIFs as possible and some cracking imagery as well. And as anyone who's noticed from my YouTube channel, which you should all be subscribed to by now, it is really kicking up a notch when it comes to the animation. Such is my dedication to you lot. So check that out. But it was a phenomenal match, and what it was entertaining. It was funny, and I could just feel every time something stupid happened, I could just see Jim Cornette having a seizure, just fucking the business is dying in front of me. It was great. I felt that the real stars of this were Matt Hardy, of course, who has such an astonishing creative mind for wrestling in his latter years, and he is completely redefining what wrestling means to a lot of us, and I think that's very, very, very fucking cool. But for me, I must admit, I'm not a huge fan of Hangman Page in general. Don't like his gimmick that much either. I know that many of my female friends are very enamored with his looks, and rightfully so, because he's a bit of a gorgeous cowboy, but it's never really sat well with me, and I felt the alcoholic gimmick just kind of pushed me a little bit further in that direction. But he has been incredibly entertaining the last few weeks that he's been on the program, and I particularly enjoyed his turn in this match. I thought he was one of the outstanding guys on this. Loved the buckshot lariat over the top of Kenny Omega, and then smacking Jake Hager over the bar. Thought that was brilliant. But for me, the real star of this whole match was Sammy Guevara again. He's one of my favorite wrestlers right now, period. He will go down as one of my, I think, he'll be a guy that I remember when I'm older, and I'll think, oh yeah, Sammy Guevara is one of my favorite wrestlers. He's so good, stinkingly talented, disgustingly young as well, which infuriates me beyond belief. But he's so funny, and he gets it. And do you know what I love about him? And especially everyone involved in the inner circle, they don't mind being the class clowns. They don't mind being made a mockery of. The birth of the golf cart, the cart of golf. And he chased him down again in it. And it's just so good. And this time he was like, oh, hell fucking no. Like, jumped into the crowd and, you know, ended up getting fucking one-wing angeled off the fucking stadium, basically, for a whopping great setup to lose the match. It was great. His facial expressions, the fact that Hangman Page was looking for him and he ran away into the, like, concourse and then returned. He took what looked like 100-yard... succession of Northern Light suplexes off one of the Young Bucks.
Oh,
as well.
I totally forgot one of that. I think Matt was
ridiculous.
I
Very
totally
smart.
forgot about that.
Like, it was brilliant because obviously it was edited, so obviously he didn't take all of them, which is fine, by the way. The fucking smarks, honestly, they don't have any fun, bless them. But I love that spot. I love the stuff, by the way, with the referee's intervention. So Aubrey Edwards counts 2 for Chris Jericho, who then is beyond... you know, he's apoplectic with rage at this decision, so he throws a challenge flag because NFL, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a huge fan of the NFL. Absolutely love it. Yes, I'm a Broncos fan, and yes, I know we're shit. Get over it. But I love this. Absolutely love it. I really love American football, and there were some really funny references in there. They had to go to the replay. Ted and Aubrey's like, you're not even supposed to be in this, Ted. Get the hell out. And he's like, you're a shitty referee. I was like, this is fucking gold. Absolute gold. He gives Jackson DeVille, the Jacksonville Jaguars official mascot, gives him a Judas effect, the poor cunt. You got the cheerleaders at the sideline looking redonkulous, even more redonkulous in masks, actually. Kind of reminded me of very sexy cocaine laboratory workers. Yes, I've been playing too much GTA. No, I am not a drug dealer. You know, it was great. It was really good fun. It was entertaining. It was funny. It was comical. And like you say, there's too many spots to mention, so I'm not going to go through any more. Please go out of your way to watch this if you want something to make you smile in a difficult time. It was utterly hysterical. And what it was a perfect cap on a absolutely fantastic evening of sports entertainment / pro wrestling, however you want to look at it. Now, I know they're more leaning towards pro wrestling, but that doesn't mean you can't have the entertainment too. And they seem to be striking a better balance of it. I thought Money in the Bank was a lot of fun, actually, mainly because it was quite short. And I was very curious to see how this match would line up with WWE's Money in the Bank match, you know, fighting through corporate WWE headquarters. This topped it for me because it just had more smarky nonsense and spots and hilarity. I still loved the Money in the Bank match, absolutely. And of course, my boy Otis winning was fantastic. But this will hold a very special place in my heart. And if there's one thing I love watching about AEW that I can't always say about WWE, I seem to be happier when I watch AEW. I still enjoy watching WWE, but AEW really makes me happy, you know? I enjoy it. It makes me feel warm. It makes me feel happy in really shitty, difficult times. And my final real thing that I wanted to say was, you know, congratulations, AEW, for having the respect of everyone around you and never feeling like you're too big for your own boots. Opening this show with a lovely vignette, you know, which would have taken just a day or so to put together, probably even less than that. You know, thanking first responders and health workers and things like that. It takes very little time to say thank you to the people who work so hard to ensure and help protect us in the most difficult of times. And AEW did that well. I know the Hannah Kimura graphic, they probably, you know, who cares if it's, you know, digitally wonderful or not? Yeah, sure, they probably could have put a better graphic up. But the fact that they're willing to speak about it so candidly, and Shag Gaspard as well, is so important. You know, WWE, for my money, don't get me wrong, they do well, and when they get the tributes right, they do them beautifully. But, you know, they don't seem to want to talk too much on the broadcast. It's always like, yeah, don't mention that. Oh, it's nothing to do with the story. You know, it's like, no, fuck that. These things are above your product. And I love the fact that AEW never feels like they are above what is truly important in this world. And that is the health and safety of the people that we love and the ones that we care about. And also honouring and recognising the extremely incredible talents, hard graft, efforts and sacrifices that people make to ensure our health and freedom every day. So, you know, a really entertaining night of wrestling after a very difficult fucking week for the wrestling world. And you can always thank AEW and Double or Nothing and Cody and the gang for, you know, putting their necks on the line and making people smile. A phenomenal show. Really, really cool. Plenty of ups, few mediocres, but no downs, no lows. It was just good fun and well worth the 20 quid. Very rarely do I take the opportunity to buy anything pay-per-view wise, but I bought this outright and I felt that was a good decision to make. Congratulations, AEW. An absolute banger. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, they got the $49.99 out of me, so you're right. I don't buy a lot of pay-per-views.
That's 5 months of the WWE Network model.
It is. But I definitely get more fun out of the $150 now than I might out of the $10 a month.
Any final points, Mr. Wilkinson, before we wrap up what has been an astonishing evening of wrestling? It's 6 minutes past 6 in the morning. Yeah, one of the most fun things I took away from that match was the fact that it spliced a bit of what I love in real life and made comedy out of it and made enjoyment out of it. And that's the whole idea of a match like this. And I guarantee the pricks like Cornette are going to completely miss the point with that. And that's fine too, because he's entitled to his opinion. But the idea of this match was not to be technically sound or to uphold the deities of the business. The idea of this match was to take regular, imparted parts of our culture, particularly American culture, and bring a nice, hilarious twist on them and make people smile. And that's what AEW did so beautifully tonight. And it does. It makes you smile a lot. I think that's a very good point to be made, and also a very fine moment that people should also check out in the main event. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, at WrestlePlug on social media, if you want to let us know what you thought of AEW Double or Nothing, you can always get in contact with us and we will discuss it on the State of Wrestling address or later down the line. Look out for our tribute to the wonderfully and dearly departed Hana Kimura as well. From myself and Carl Wilkinson, thank you very much for listening to our review of AEW Double or Nothing. Don't forget, if you do have YouTube, if you have any interest, check that out. I'm going to try our hardest to make that an entertaining watch for you as well. And it's always cool to have something on in the background, whatever you may be doing during your day. As always, ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you very soon for more nonsense from the WrestlePlug.